Hey everyone, Paul Daniels here, What I Fix Daily. Alright, so today we've got an iPhone 5C that's come in, and the complaint was that it's discharging pretty quickly. So I went through the usual processes, and we've come up that it's actually most likely the Tristar at fault. We've tried a different dock connector, and it still misbehaves. It won't draw any power with the battery disconnected and just the lightning port in. It also won't communicate with the PC, so those two things are a bit of an indicator. And so at this point, yeah, I'm thinking it's probably the TriStar. So fortunately, it is a 5C. So if we waste our time on this, it's not a colossal task that we had to undertake. This is a fairly pristine phone. It's got a couple of little water drops here and there, or at least it looks like water drops, but maybe they're probably something else. So we'll just get the screen out of this and the main board out. I know, same old bad habits I've got there, colouring up those screws. It's just because it's easier than trying to fix up long screw damage. I mean, theoretically I shouldn't mix them up, but you never know, you might have a slip. Something gets mixed up somewhere. And I suppose you could measure them then too, just to check, make sure if you're right or wrong. It's kind of easier if you can just prevent it in the first place. That part down there. Okay, let's get to pop the SIM out. Seems my screwdriver has decided that today is the day to lose magnetism. Hands are a little bit twitchy today. Probably lack of sleep. Get this antenna off. Actually, this is easier under the microscope. Just going to mark this in so I know which one's which. And now we've got to take off all the little adhesive bits. There's another one there. There's also this foam here. It's interesting, it's got a marking on there. This is probably a refurb. mean, I could be wrong, but I don't know, maybe someone can tell me. Just, given how pristine this phone looks, I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually a refurb, given that usually by now, even the best kept of these are showing some signs of age. Or was it another sticker there? Come on. Oh, tweezers are a little bit janky. Don't forget these. Well, we shouldn't normally have to do this one. We'll take it off. Yeah, so we've got another mark there. There's usually one up here too. Not seeing it. Could be in the chassis. Oh, well, doesn't matter. Anyway. Okay, let's get this shield off. You really need the back one off, but sometimes the front comes with it. These tweezers are just not up to the job today. Must be because it's Monday. There we go. Downside of holding it like that is that I tend to burn my fingers. This, of course, is the Chris Long shield drop method, or the gravity method, whatever you want to call it. Basically, the idea is you just heat up the shield, holding it above the ground, and it will usually pop straight off when it's ready. I can feel it starting to go tick, tick, tick. There we go. Nice and easy. That's quite warm. Let's have a look under the microscope. And there's our beloved Tristar. Well, guess we'll just get him off, put a new one in. And notice on the 5C, the Tristar pin 1 is actually down here, whereas on the 5S it's up here. So just put a little mark there. We should remember that now that we've done it. It's funny how if you don't do these things, these tweezers are really messed up. See if I get a better pair for grabbing. How about you guys? You should do the trick. And I could change my nozzle size again. Probably could do it with the same nozzle, but it's just a preference thing. And you got to do what you're comfortable with. And it's different if you're learning things and you got to push yourself out of your comfort zone. But if you don't have to, then why bother? Particularly when you're working on a customer's job. Okay, just give it a bit of flux to smooth the process. Here we go. So it might come out a bit. Alright, a little messy. I like it when my Tristars come off and it's a nice, clean sort of removal of the balls, but that didn't happen this time. That's alright. I'm going to use the soldering iron, put a little bit of leaded solder down. One interesting thing I found is before I was wicking the pads with hot air wicking, and it really did a good job. I left a nice, clean set of pads to land on. But the trouble was that when I went to go put the chip back down, because I was dealing exclusively with leaded solder, unleaded solder, it had a much higher melting temperature, which made for things to be a little more precarious in cleaning up. Whereas if you put a bit of leaded solder down on those pads, it tends to help them when you put the Tristar back down. I mean, that could be all psychological. Hell, it probably is psychological. But, you know, anything will do. Okay, I'm fiddling with these a little bit too much. Okay, that looks good. Fortunately, the Tristar is a pretty big chip, so you don't really have to worry about everything being perfect. If this is a PMIC or something like that, you would want to spend the time to get it right. Yeah, everything nice and flat. Oh, that's looking pretty good, except for the fact that I keep getting washback. And get those nice little bits and pieces off. I don't know if it's just me, but this grid array, the mask on it looks different to what I'm normally used to seeing. Oh. Alright, time to get our Tristar. Okay, we're using 610A3Bs here. So that should be just fine. Put down a bit of flux, help this over. That's heaps of flux. Wow. Check out the wiggly hands today. Funnily enough, you don't want it too perfect, otherwise you don't get to see it sort of drop into place. So I'm actually just fiddling around here for no good purpose at all. Cannot get that hand steady. Let me try and rest my other hand on it. That often helps. There we go, that's a bit better. Just pull you over a bit more. Perfect. Perfect for what I want it to be. Okay, let's have a look. Yeah, well, it looks very nice. Okay, let's give it a shot. It's still fairly warm, but probably by the time I've finished stuffing around, getting it in, it might have cooled off enough. And then of course we have the joy of taking it all back out. There's no point putting the on off on it. We just want the dock. Okay. Now what I can do here, hopefully if this all goes right, we should see some sort of current coming out of the charger unit, which you might not be able to see. We'll see if this picks up. There we go, we got some activity there, whereas before we didn't. So it's good. Before, what would happen is it just sit at 0. Okay, so we'll put everything back on now. I really could have done that without putting it back into the chassis, but I didn't have another dock on hand. We'll just wash down that area because we did put flux on there. Toothbrush. Good soaking of I do like this new dispenser for the alcohol. The little pump ones are good too, but for when you're doing wash-offs, such as just what we just did, then I find the squeezy bottles are much better. You get a lot more alcohol down on the board quickly. Because you see, if you just wet up a toothbrush with the squeezy, with the pump bottle, and you scrub it around, what often happens is all you're doing is smearing the flux around. You're not really getting the flux off the board. Whereas by doing a good wash like that and letting it drain into your napkin, you're getting rid of the flux. And it saves you having to put it through an ultrasonic. At least a little bit. As long as you haven't done too much fluxing when you worked on it. Alright, now the fun bit. Getting our shield back on. This bit's something I've still got to practice. Shout out to Jason Fulmer, who's the one that got me onto this idea, technique, where you essentially just, all you're doing is hot airing your shield back on. Now this one's a little harder because you don't really get a place to really see. I suppose down here we could. You don't really get a place to really see when it's getting to the reflow point. Hopefully this should work. Be able to see a couple of spots there. Really could do with a bent nozzle at this point. Well, there we have. Let's have a look at this. Let's have a look. You are definitely not set down. You're almost there. You just Need a bit more. Yep, just a bit more. And that's much better. Finally, just needed a bit of practice. See if I can show you by holding it in something that will insulate the heat from my hand. There we go, so back down where it should be. Excellent. And naturally the desk has become a big mess. Alright, we now start the reassembly process. Make sure we always put the antenna cable on. The number of times that I have put these boards back in without that antenna cable and then had to take it all back out again. It's enough to drive me insane. Okay. So remember, one end we've got that's red and the other's not. Yeah, I could have just damaged things there. Careful with that. The last thing you're going to do is damage something like that. It's always fun if you do such a thing to say, oh, I don't know, the EEPROM chip for the baseband. Fortunately that's not it, but EEPROM chip for the baseband looks pretty similar. It's on the other side. Where is it on this one actually? It's like, I'm not sure actually. I know on the 5S it's up here. I'm not sure if that's it or whether that's a just a MOSFET. Anyway, yeah, so I'm pretty sure it's on the 5S where you got this large block up here, which I think is that device. And then next to it you got a little blue fellow under some overfill. And you ruin that, and you may as well just put the phone into the parts bin. And the way I know is because, yeah, I've done it. On the upside, at least it was my own phone. Still didn't make me very happy though. Now we plug in the phone, this should pop up. Okay, that's what we wanted. So it's good. Looks like we've got the fix in there. Let's see if we can get this to boot. Just with plugging the cable in. Looks like we're a little short on the cable there. There we go. Marvelous. Alright, so that's it for this afternoon. Another fairly rudimentary iPhone 5C job. Complete with shaky hands, so even if you do have shaky hands, you can do it too. So I'm going to leave it at that, probably charge this up, let the customer know it's all good to go, and they'll be happy to have their phone back and working again. Alright, so until next time, I'll catch you all later.